Gotta catch 'em all. We're collecting all the best insider skip the line tricks around Disney World today, so you never have to worry about wasting your whole trip standing around in line after line after line. Hey everybody, it's AJ for Disney Food Blog. So collecting insider skip the line tricks around Disney World is a lot like collecting card trading packs. So that's how we're going to treat today's video. Each skip the line trading card will come from one of two packs. Premium, meaning you'll have to pay extra to use them in the parks, or standard, meaning they're going to cost you nothing to use. And every insider skip the line card will come with one of three colors. Red means common, which are basic tricks first-time guests need to know about. Yellow means uncommon, the tricks that aren't new, but we haven't talked about in a while, and we need to remind y'all they're still good. And green means rare, our brand new tricks that everyone needs to know about. And if you're really, really lucky, we might pull a shiny rainbow enchanted skip the line trick out of our collection today, but we'll just have to wait and see. Just to kick things off, here's a skip the line tip that I'm not going to put in a pack of insider tricks today because, well, it's not going to be possible for everyone to use. And that's to go when Disney World is going to be less crowded. Just as a general rule of thumb, the best way to skip Disney's highest crowd times is to avoid going to the parks when everyone else goes. Peak times for Disney World include school breaks like spring break, summer vacation, big holidays, weekends including 3 to 4 day extended weekends, and Run Disney Marathon weekends. Big if here, you have the flexibility in your vacation schedule to plan a trip around late August or September when the kids are back in school, or even mid-January to early February when the post-holiday lull sets in, not only will you naturally find shorter wait times, but prices for tickets and hotels are often lower during these periods too. Fewer people equals shorter lines and less stress. But again, that's not always a strategy everyone can rely on, especially families. So let's open our first skip the line card pack and see what we get. We'll start off with one of our standard packs first, just to see what free skip the line tips we can add to our collection from the get-go. All right, we're starting off strong with our first rare skip the line trick. For all you veteran Disney World trip planners out there, you're probably thinking, rope drop, early theme park entry? Those are not new tricks, AJ. And you're right, they're not. However, when we talk about these sun-up line skipping strategies, we commonly group them together, but they don't necessarily need to be grouped together because you might need to plan your first ride of the day differently depending on which strategy you're using. But let me backtrack, because if you're new to the Disney scene, I want to briefly explain the difference between early theme park entry and rope drop. So rope drop is something that any Disney World guest can do, whether you're planning on staying at a Disney-owned hotel or not. Basically, it's just that you show up right before a Disney park opens up their gates, so you can be one of the first people inside the park to make a beeline toward a ride that you know is going to get way busier as the day progresses. Rope drop is basically referencing a literal rope that Disney cast members used to drop in front of the crowd as they opened the park. Sometimes they still do rope drop in different areas of the park. Meanwhile, early theme park entry is available to all guests staying at a Disney-owned hotel, plus a limited number of partnering Disney hotels like Swan and Dolphin, Swan Reserve, Shades of Green, and several others you can find listed on the Disney World website that they call Good Neighbor hotels. This allows you to enter any of the Disney World parks on any days 30 minutes before rope drop happens, giving you the ultimate head start. So, why would early theme park entry and rope drop need different morning strategies? Because not every ride is open during early theme park entry, meaning you'll need to adjust your itinerary accordingly. Let's start with the biggest early entry / rope drop deviation you're going to come across, the ones for Magic Kingdom. Early theme park entry does happen at Magic Kingdom, but you'll only be able to go into Tomorrowland and Fantasyland. That's it during that 30-minute head start. And unfortunately, Tron Light Cycle Run is not included in that lineup. Your best bet when it comes to early theme park entry is to get in line for rides like Peter Pan's Flight and Seven Dwarfs Mine Train first, since those are the two Fantasyland attractions that are going to rack up the highest waits during the day, and you want to knock those out. Space Mountain is also a solid choice if you want to take the Tomorrowland route instead. Now, if you're heading to Magic Kingdom for Rope Drop, it might be a solid idea to jump in line for rides that weren't available during early theme park entry first, since everyone's going to be at a level playing field at those particular attractions. So stuff like Jungle Cruise in Adventureland, Haunted Mansion in Liberty Square, or even Tron might be solid options to hit up first, right after Rope Drop. For the most part, your early morning game plan for Hollywood Studios and Epcot probably isn't going to change too much regardless of if you're using early theme park entry or Rope Drop. But when it comes to AK, rides like Kilimanjaro Safaris and Kali River Rapids will not be open during early theme park entry either. So early theme park entry folks are probably all going to go to Pandora to get in line for Flight of Passage and Na'vi River Journey first, meaning the Safaris and Rapids will more than likely be walk-on waits when you enter the park right after Rope Drop. Ooh, an uncommon hack. Alrighty, we'll take it. We've been talking less and less about virtual queues lately because they're pretty much up in the air right now. I feel like we're in this state of limbo just waiting for things to change, since there's a good chance the current virtual queues for Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind in Epcot and Tiana's Bayou Adventure in Magic Kingdom, which also offers a Lightning Lane option through Disney's MultiPass service, might be stripped away at any moment, and we might get a new virtual queue for Test Track once it opens later this summer with all its new fancy schmancy updates. Lots of might be's, but no guarantees. That being said, there's a good chance you're going to have to use some sort of virtual queue during your upcoming Disney World visit. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the virtual queue systems, let me recap it for you right now. We don't want to leave you behind. Now, we do have a whole blog post detailing how these virtual queues work inside the parks over on our website if you'd like to see a step-by-step process of this My Disney Experience app service. Virtual queues allow guests to reserve a space in line for the most popular park attractions. If you're able to snag a virtual queue, either during the 7 a.m. or 1 p.m. drops, you'll be assigned a boarding group number. When your number is called, you'll be notified through the app and you'll be able to head on over to the ride to get in line. If a ride is using a virtual queue, that means there will be no traditional standby line available for it during the day. So getting a boarding group number through a virtual queue is of utmost importance. Now, there is another way you can skip these virtual queues altogether, but we'll talk more about that later on. While virtual queues are pretty nifty, since you won't have to waste your whole day waiting in a physical queue just to ride one newish ride, they can also be a headache since boarding group spots can fill up fast. So your best course of action to help guarantee a boarding group number is to make sure the only thing you have to worry about when those virtual queues go live is pressing one button on the My Disney Experience app to join the queue, and that's it. Typically, when you join a virtual queue, you'll have to do two things. One, confirm your party, and then join the queue itself. However, beginning at 6 a.m. each day, you can tap into the virtual queue and confirm your party ahead of time, so you've got fewer steps when boarding groups become available, which gives you a better chance of getting one. Here's how that works. On the app, after you've selected your desired attraction in the appropriate park, under Join Virtual Queue, you'll find a button that says Confirm Your Party. Once you hit that button, the app will find the people who are linked to your account. You can select each person that you want to add to your group and choose Confirm Party. Easy enough, right? And oh so crucial to help you make sure you waste no time when joining those virtual queues. This card might be common, but it's still just as useful as it's always been. Some of the shortest lines I've ever experienced during a Disney World park day have been whenever a park's about an hour or less away from closing. Now let's say you're about to get in line for Rise of the Resistance 10 minutes before the park closes, but the wait is still set at 60 plus minutes. Here are a few things you need to keep in mind. First off, yes, this means you will be riding this ride after the park closes. As long as you enter into the queue before it shuts off for the night, you'll still be good to go and able to ride. Secondly, that wait time you're seeing might not be accurate. At the end of the night, wait times are often projected a bit higher than they really are. Disney's not going to admit that, but our research shows it's true. So not only will you get on the ride, but you'll possibly be waiting in a shorter line to do so. And third, there's always a gamble when it comes to waiting in line for these rides at the very end of the day, because if something happens to them when the ride ends up going down for technical issues, it's highly likely Disney won't attempt to reopen the ride until the next day, so you'll be out of luck. You might also want to consider, if you will, skipping the park's nighttime spectaculars. Blasphemous? Maybe, but it's not uncommon for ride wait times to dip significantly during the parades and fireworks shows. So if you don't mind skipping out on experiences like the Happily Ever After fireworks at Magic Kingdom, Luminous and Epcot, or Fantasmic and Hollywood Studios, in exchange for a more popular ride that you didn't get the chance to check out earlier because of the super long line, then don't look back, get in line now, and ask for forgiveness later. Okay, let's switch things up and open a few skip the line tricks out of our premium pack. Looky here at Common Card, all about some of the best line skipping perks for Disney's hotel guests. We've already mentioned that staying at a Disney-owned hotel during your vacation will help you unlock early theme park entry. But what happens if you upgrade your stay and go the deluxe resort route instead? Well, then you'll be able to use extended evening hours too. Extended evening hours are available for deluxe resort guests only, and they give you the chance to stay in certain parks on select evenings up to 2 hours longer than everyone else. By the way, deluxe resorts, those are the expensive hotels in Disney World. I know, they're all expensive, but these ones are the most expensive. Now that means way shorter lines to worry about at the end of the night. You can also use this theme park perk if you book a stay at Disney's partnering Swan and Dolphin, Swan Reserve, or Shades of Green resorts too. But even if you don't want to splurge on the deluxe hotel stay, you got more reasons you might still want to book a Disney-owned hotel as your home away from home. Because a Disney hotel comes in particularly handy when you're wanting to use Lightning Lanes during your visit. Lightning Lanes are Disney's premium ride line bypassing option. You'll have 3 Lightning Lane choices: Multi-Pass, Single Pass, and Premier Pass. We'll talk more about Premier Pass later because it's a horse of a different color, but Multi and Single Pass can be purchased alongside each other, or you might choose to purchase one service over the other. Let's break it down. Multi-Pass gives you access to a lot of Lightning Lanes across each of the parks, where Single Pass operates in a much more a la carte fashion. But if you want to learn all the details of how Lightning Lanes work, because it can be intimidating when you first hear about them, we've got an entire Lightning Lane playlist up on our YouTube channel that I think is going to help you out a whole lot. But back to the matter at hand. How can a stay at a Disney-owned hotel help you when it comes to purchasing and booking Lightning Lanes? Well, because your hotel reservation will give you a Lightning Lane head start. I'm strictly going to talk about Multi-Pass for the moment, since I'll also talk more about Single Pass later on, so just so I don't over bombard you with a Lightning Lane info dump. When purchasing Lightning Lane Multi-Pass, that's the one that gives you access to lots of different Lightning Lanes around the parks. You can make up to 3 Lightning Lane Multi-Pass selections in a park ahead of your visit. Additionally, you can choose available times as you make your attraction selections during the day, and you can continue to hold up to 3 Lightning Lane Multi-Pass selections all day long. And as one gets used, you can make another one. So for instance, if I purchase Multi-Pass for my Magic Kingdom day, and I've pre-selected my 3 Lightning Lanes for Peter Pan's Flight, Pirates of the Caribbean, and Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger Spin, I'll be able to make my next Lightning Lane selection after I use one of those 3 pre-selected rides, depending on what's available. Now, if you're staying in a Disney World Resort hotel or one of Disney's fellow partner hotels, you can purchase and select your first 3 Lightning Lane Multi-Passes up to 7 days in advance of your check-in day for your entire stay, which goes up to 14 days out. Meanwhile, all other guests who'll be staying off Disney property will be able to purchase and select their first 3 Lightning Lane Multi-Passes 3 days in advance. If you're planning to stay off property, please don't let this stress you out. You should still be able to choose from a really good selection of Lightning Lanes before you go. We've actually tested this, and even though we were choosing our Lightning Lane selections 3 days out, we were still able to book all of the popular rides. But at least for the purposes of Disney's marketing, their hotel guests will have first dibs, meaning those prime Lightning Lane ride time selections will be available for them to choose first. Perfect timing. Much like the title of this uncommon card says, the earlier the Lightning Lane return time, the better. Because the earlier you book those Lightning Lanes, the sooner you'll be able to make your next Lightning Lane selection during your park day. So let's say I'm purchasing Multi-Pass for my Hollywood Studios day, and I'm about to pre-select Lightning Lanes for Slinky Dog Dash, Toy Story Mania, and Tower of Terror. Pretty good choices, right? Now, if I've got the option to book a Lightning Lane for Tower of Terror right after the park opens, which is typically 9 a.m., I'm going to want to choose that option versus an option for a much later time frame in the day. And that's because just as soon as I scan in for that 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Lightning Lane, I'll be able to immediately book my next Lightning Lane, since I can always hold up to 3 at a time. In summary, the more Lightning Lanes with earlier return time slots you can snag, the more Lightning Lanes you can probably collect during your day. A rare card, a rare card. We found a rare card. Recently, we uncovered a feature that'll come in super handy for you when you're in the parks and want to keep tabs on all those lightning lanes that you've booked. Let's say you've booked some lightning lanes in Magic Kingdom. Sure, you can view a list of the 3 that you've booked at any given time, but did you know you can also view those on the map in My Disney Experience? If you're not familiar with navigating the parks and want to make sure you're not doing a lot of backtracking when you're bouncing between lightning lanes, then this real-time map is going to be a game changer for you, because you'll be able to look at those return times and then plan the best route possible to get to each lightning lane. You'll also be able to see your advanced dining reservation times on the app too. Just a little extra tidbit of fun info for you. So if you find yourself in Disney World and are trying to figure out the best way to knock out your lightning lanes without a lot of extra walking, be sure to look at the map on the My Disney Experience app. By the way, you can do this by tapping on the location icon at the bottom of the screen when you open the app. You can also use the filter link at the top of the map to choose which park you'd like to see. And now let's get back to the freebies again. This might be a more common tip than some, but this card has the People Mover on it. And as the self-proclaimed president of the fictitious People Mover fan club, I will forever cherish this card for that reason alone. So why is People Mover the featured image for this common insider trick? There are a few rides across the parks that we consider to be your safety net options. And what I mean by that is when all the other A-tier attractions are racking up wait times that are 60 minutes and over, you can normally rely on a certain number of safety net rides to keep wait times fairly short even during busier parts of the day. We usually consider these rides as good safety net options. In Magic Kingdom, not only is People Mover my go-to and my all-time favorite, but over in Fantasyland, you're going to find a handful of rides with minimal wait times too, including Mad Tea Party, Under the Sea, Journey of the Little Mermaid, and It's a Small World. In Epcot, you got tons of rides that usually don't build up too high of a wait, like Grand Fiesta Tour starring the 3 Caballeros, Journey into Imagination, The Seas with Nemo and Friends, and Living with the Land, also my favorite. In Hollywood Studios, your best chances of lower waits are going to lie with attractions like Star Tours and maybe Alien Swirling Saucers. And in Animal Kingdom, ride times aren't terrible here in general unless you're hanging out in Pandora, World of Avatar. But if you really want a short ride line, take a journey aboard the Wildlife Express and over to Rafiki's Planet Watch. This is a place where you can visit a petting zoo, explore the conservation station, and even sketch alongside Disney artists at the Animation Experience. Sounds great so far, right? Well, here's where the insider trick comes into play. During busier times of the year, we've seen these very same rides have wait times that spike up to the A-tier attraction range. And I'm sorry, People Mover, I love you and all, but I'm not waiting 30 minutes to ride you when I know you've usually got a wait time of 5 to 10 minutes tops. But then again, if this is your one and only time going to Disney World, or you know it's going to be a very, very, very long time before you come back, you may not feel like you got much choice in the matter. But you do. Keep an eye on wait times leading up to your trip and find out what the average lines usually look like. This will not only give you a good idea of what you should typically expect from a certain Disney attraction, but it'll also show you when ride lines typically start to dip down for each ride during the day. You can study wait times on the My Disney Experience app, but we also release updated posts on our DFB site that covers what we're seeing in the parks firsthand. You can also check out forecasted wait times for the rides on your My Disney Experience app too. We haven't talked about this in a while. When you're looking at the app's tip board and you want to see what the predicted wait times for a certain attraction are going to look like throughout the day, tap on the View Details option next to the ride's current wait time. This is going to take you to the ride's main page where you can see when the ride's estimated waits are predicted to drop and spike that day. Just keep in mind that much like a weather forecast, ride wait time forecasts aren't always going to be 100% accurate. But they should at least give you a nice springboard to help you plan your day. Then, when you're inside the park and you're noticing that poor old People Mover is unexpectedly a 25-minute wait, probably packed out with fellow People Mover Club members, then you'll know that it's a-okay to skip this ride for now and come back later on the line for it dips back to normal. In the meantime, you can wait out the peak of the ride lines by catching a show, doing some shopping, enjoying a meal, and all around taking in the highly themed Disney atmosphere. Don't worry, People Mover. I'll be back for you. I promise. Using the free single rider lines might be more of a common line skipping practice, but what makes this trick more uncommon is the fact that there are new single rider lines popping up on the scene. In case you need a quick rundown of how single rider works, basically it's a separate line from the regular queue, and it's typically a lot shorter than the regular queue since Disney World cast members pull from the single rider line in order to fill up all the available space on a designated attraction. This means that your group will probably get split up if your whole group decides they want to try out this method with you, but it also means potentially not having to wait in the forever long line, which could be worth the trade-off. Recently, Disney's been testing single rider queues at super popular attractions like Remy's Ratatouille Adventure in Epcot and Rise of the Resistance in Hollywood Studios. The last time Remy's was testing this single rider queue, we were able to jump on the ride in only 5 minutes, even though the normal queue was posted at 55 minutes. Not too shabby. Now, because these new single rider queues are still in testing mode, there's the possibility they won't always be available. So it's worth checking to see if it'll be an option for you, but it's not necessarily going to be a guarantee. Other single rider queues that tend to be available more often than not, that have been around for a while now, include Expedition Everest at Animal Kingdom, Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run at Hollywood Studios, and Rock and Roller Coaster also at Hollywood Studios. In the past, Test Track had a single rider option too, but we'll have to see if that's still going to be the case when it reopens later this summer. Now, remember, single rider isn't guaranteed to give you a shorter wait time, it's just more likely going to. In the past, the single rider line for Rock and Roller Coaster specifically hasn't been too terribly different than waiting in the regular queue. However, Expedition Everest and Smuggler's Run seem to be consistently shorter. The only problem with choosing the single rider option on Smuggler's Run is the fact that you're more than likely not going to be assigned the pilot role during your mission, which is, for many, the best position you can receive. But just recently, Smuggler's Run started experimenting with a new to Disney World queue concept, the double rider queue. This works exactly how you think it'd work. Instead of potentially bypassing over a bulk of the queue all by your lonesome, you get to partner up with a buddy and become a party of 2 that still gets to use the single rider line option. If you want to try the double rider line on for size, I'd highly recommend asking the cast member at the front of the attraction first to make sure this is still a viable option during your trip. If it is, go ahead and jump in the single rider line with your ride buddy in tow. It's also worth noting that only those who are 7 years old and older can access the single rider queues. However, if you don't feel comfortable with sending your 7-year-old on a Disney World ride all by themselves, then you're probably better off standing in the regular queue instead. Nice! Another uncommon trick. So here's the thing. Sometimes waiting in a ride line is just unavoidable. And I know that doesn't sound like a great way to start off a line skipping trick point, but you can always use your time in one line to help you save time in other lines. For example, we often recommend eating at kind of off-peak times to avoid larger crowds on those busier days in Disney World. And mobile order is a great way to make sure you don't have to wait in a long line before waiting again to get your food. However, if you don't mobile order your food ahead of time on busy days, you may go to order your food when you're starving at lunchtime and realize the next pickup window isn't available for another 45 or more minutes. So, while you're waiting in a ride line, you can plan your meals ahead of time and place your lunch and or dinner orders well in advance on the My Disney Experience app. You can choose whatever food pickup time you'd like for later on in the day. You can also use this time to check on the My Disney Experience app and see if there are any walk-up wait lists available for table services that maybe you didn't make reservations for ahead of time. What else can you do on the MDE app while waiting in a ride line that maybe doesn't involve food? Check on other ride wait times and plan the best course of action for when you're ready to move on to the next attraction. You can also double check show times since times do vary day to day, and you don't want to miss out on a performance you were really looking forward to, especially those parades. This might also be a great time to modify any lightning lanes you're not super thrilled with and see if you can get earlier return times or different ride options that you weren't seeing pop up as a selection beforehand. So there's a lot to do when you're in those ride lines, lots of time to get things done while waiting in line. No rare skip the line hacks this time, but maybe we'll find 1 or 2 more in this last premium pack? Ooh, an uncommon option. I will take that. If you're trying to find certain lightning lanes, but you're coming up dry, this is when you want to refresh, and refresh your app. You can use this method after you've made all of your initial selections and confirmed your purchase. When you're on the main screen, tap on the selection you're looking to modify the time for, and then select Modify Plan in the pop-up. You'll then be taken to a screen where you can modify the experience by either picking a new time or choosing a new experience altogether. On this page, select select whatever time the app gives, even if it's still not what you're after, because after you choose that new time frame, you'll be taken to a screen to review the details. On this page, find the attraction again, and you'll see a modified time option in blue text. Tap on this to see a full list of available times for the ride. Still not seeing what you want? You can repeatedly tap close and then modify time again to refresh the available times. I know, it sounds like a pain, but trust me, our success rate with this insider trick has come in very handy for our DFB reporter team a dozen times over. I'm not saying it's completely foolproof, but it's worth attempting for sure. Now, we've talked about single passes before, but we really haven't talked in detail about what you can expect from each single pass. So let's use this rare skip the line opportunity to pour out the truth. First, a little single pass recap. Much like multi-pass, single pass also lets you purchase lightning lanes for rides, but instead of paying for access to a lot of lightning lanes across the parks, you pay a separate fee to use the lightning lane for the individual, more in-demand attractions. You can hold a maximum of 2 single passes per day, and both single passes can be purchased in advance, just like multi-pass. Plus, your single passes can be located in 2 different parks if you plan on doing a little park hopping that day. So now, let's talk about each of Disney World's current single pass options. Keep in mind that single pass can change at any time, so you're going to want to double check and make sure that the single passes haven't pulled some sort of switcheroo on you before you go. Magic Kingdom's the only park currently that has 2 single pass choices, Seven Dwarfs Mine Train and Tron Lightcycle Run. Seven Dwarfs Mine Train is typically going to be the cheapest single pass option at $10 to $19 per ride per person. This ride is pretty short, so paying $40 to $76 extra for your family of 4 to skip over the wait of Seven Dwarfs may not seem worth it to you. However, time is money in Disney World, so if this is an attraction one of your younger kids really wants to do, and you don't want to potentially wait 2+ hours in a hot line for it, then you might want to save back because the line for this one can get really long. Really long. In fact, if given the choice, I might choose to purchase a single pass for Seven Dwarfs Mine Train over a single pass for Tron Lightcycle Run, especially if you're traveling with a couple of small fries versus older kids. Tron typically costs $19 to $22 per person per ride, and while this lightning lane used to be more worth it back when Tron was still using a virtual queue, last year Tron switched over to using a regular old standby queue. And this standby queue is mostly indoors and in the AC, so even if you skip the single pass purchase, you'll at least be waiting in this super cool high-tech looking air-conditioned building. In Epcot, you'll find one of the most popular single pass options, Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. A single pass for this one costs around $14 to $18 per ride per person, and per the release of this video, it's the only single pass purchase that'll help you bypass a virtual queue. Yep, even though Cosmic Rewind's been around since 2022, it still uses a virtual queue system that Disney usually uses for its new rides to handle the crowds. That's how popular this is. So if skipping over the virtual queue hassle is worth it for you, then a single pass purchase might be in your future. I personally always single pass purchase for Guardians of the Galaxy. While I don't always recommend getting a multi-pass for your Animal Kingdom day, since you really don't have a lot of rides you'll be able to use it for, getting a single pass here is a different story because it can be extremely useful for Avatar Flight of Passage. Now, Flight of Passage's lightning lanes will usually put you back $11 to $18 per ride per person. I don't mind waiting in line for this one. I like the theming, particularly I like the whole laboratory area with the full-size Na'vi avatar, and I like the fact that this is the only ride in Disney with a mid-queue bathroom, so you can take a potty break without having to leave the line entirely and make things potentially uncomfortable for you and your group. That being said, this is going to be the longest line you experience in Animal Kingdom, and that line stays long all day long. So if you don't want to burn a lot of daylight ogling the in-queue theming for Flight of Passage, a single pass could come in very handy. And finally, over in Hollywood Studios, you've got the single pass that tends to be your most expensive option on the daily, Star Wars Rise of the Resistance. Single passes for Rise tend to range $15 to $25 per person per day. And I'm going to tell you a weird tip for this one that honestly goes for any of the single passes I talked about today. If you see the single pass prices listed higher, it might be a better idea to buy them than versus when they're marked lower. Lightning Lane prices for single and multi-pass tick upwards based on demand. So if you're looking at Lightning Lane prices for Rise of the Resistance for the day of your visit and you see that they're going to be $15, that probably means the crowds aren't going to be that bad, so the ride demand isn't going to be as high. But if you're looking at prices and you see Lightning Lanes for Rise listed for $25 or more, then that means Disney expects this ride to be super packed out. all day long, making a single pass purchase even more worth it. Hold up, is that a rainbow enchanted skip the line trick I see? Why, yes it is. How lucky are we? If you want to not only skip the lines around Disney World, but also figure out how to ride everything in all 4 parks during your vacation, go ahead and scan the QR code you see on this card right now, or head to disneyfoodblog.com/DisneyRides, and we can send you our free guide detailing how to do it all. Yep, it's true. We are in the parks every single day. We know how to ride all the rides. This is going to help. So this next Skip the Line insider info is actually the newest of the bunch because this was a change that was just made recently on the Disney scene, and that's what earns its rare status. Now, DFB's been around over 15 years, but before DFB was something I even fathomed would be a possibility for me, I was hitting up the Disney World parks with my family pretty regularly. So I've seen so many iterations of the Lightning Lane / Fast Pass situation happen over the years, to the point where when one big change is announced, it doesn't really shock me to my core anymore. And that's kind of how I felt when Premier Pass was added to the Lightning Lane family last year. Premier Pass is Disney's 3rd Lightning Lane option that grants one-time entry for every Lightning Lane available in a given park for one price per person per day. And yes, that means you'll receive all the multi-passes and single passes featured in the park as well. This means you won't have to worry about any of the multi or single pass tips I talked about today. You would just automatically have all those Lightning Lanes for your single park given to you that you're free to use whenever you want. The downside is the price of this convenience. Depending on the park and time of year that you're visiting, the Premier Pass service can range from $119 to $400 or more per person per park. But again, if this is one of the few times you'll be visiting Disney in your life and you just don't want to deal with the ride lines whatsoever and all the crazy virtual queue stuff and the refreshing, this might be something you want to save for. When Premier Pass was first introduced on October 30th, 2024, only deluxe resort guests were able to purchase it. But just a month later, the rules changed, and everyone staying at a Disney hotel during their stay, whether it be value, moderate, or deluxe, was now eligible to purchase Premier Pass. This also included guests staying at the Swan and Dolphin, the Swan Reserve, and Shades of Green. Now the rules have changed again. As of January 21st, anyone, yes, anyone visiting Disney World will be able to purchase the Lightning Lane Premier Pass. Those who are staying at the Disney World hotels and Walt Disney World Swan and Dolphin and Shades of Green will be able to purchase it up to 7 days in advance of their hotel stay. Everyone else not staying at a Disney World hotel will be able to purchase it up to 3 days in advance of their visit. Just keep in mind that availability for Premier Pass is extremely limited. It does sell out. So staying at a Disney-owned hotel will still give you the upper hand when it comes to purchasing this 3rd Lightning Lane option. Oh, wait a minute, we're getting a bonus card! First an enchanted skip the line trick, and now this! Lady Luck is on our side. After Hours are separately ticketed events that allow you to stay in select parks up to 3 hours after they close for everybody else. During these events, you're going to find complimentary snacks like bottled sodas and ice cream bars, waters, and popcorn, as well as potentially after-hours exclusive shows and meet and greet characters, and best of all, way shorter ride lines for everything, since each event will be capped off at a limited number of guests. It can get downright ghost towny in the parks during after hours. Now, while after-hours tickets can be pricey and sometimes more expensive than a regular park ticket, this can be a great alternative for families who want to prioritize back-to-back rides more than anything else while on Disney World property, potentially even riding some of the most popular rides multiple times in a row. In a similar vein, the holiday parties that you'll find in Magic Kingdom, Mickey's Not So Scary and Mickey's Very Merry, as well as Hollywood Studios, Jollywood Nights, during specific times of the year are also separately ticketed events that happen after hours, just with a lot more holiday exclusive entertainment and offerings. These events aren't nearly as capped off as the after hours events are. However, since most guests are going to prioritize those entertainment offerings and the exclusive holiday meet and greets and stuff, ride lines are typically a whole lot shorter. Okay, y'all, I am pretty pleased with the cards we pulled today, especially that enchanted one. Who knew we'd get so lucky? Yeah, we did. Speaking of which, don't forget to pick up our free Ride Everything guide over at disneyfoodblog.com/DisneyRides, so you don't let that enchanted card privilege go to waste. Thanks for listening, everyone, and thanks for watching. As always, this is AJ for Disney Food Blog, and I'll see you real soon.